Welcome back to Tabletop Salt. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to continue my segments on analysing the Chaos Space Marine Codex. Today I'm going to look at the Chaos Predator. The Chaos Predator has been a staple vehicle in Marine-based armies for certainly a long time before even I started the hobby. And all that time I've never actually owned one. But I have a few in production which should bring up quite a bit of variety for the Chaos Space Marine force that we've got. So how this works, if you haven't seen it before, is basically I'm going to have a look at the unit in the Codex. I'm going to look at its stats and special abilities and some war gear options possibly. I'm then going to have a look at loadout suggestions, looking at more of the equipment in a bit more detail and what's best for it. Have a look at Legion traits where applicable, psychic abilities and stratagems that may be of some use. So with that, let's have a look at the Chaos Predator. So the Chaos Predator has some variable stats. We'll start with movement. At peak efficiency it's 12, so it's very, very fast. On medium efficiency it's 6, and at lowest efficiency 3. So it can start really fast, and then when it takes some damage it's going to be really, really slow. Weapon skill 6+, well this bad boy is not designed for combat, clearly, so that's a 6, fine, it's kind of what you expect. Bliss skill does vary, peak efficiency 3, mid 4 and lowest efficiency 5, so you certainly want to be shooting this thing at peak efficiency because it goes from being like 2/3 going to hit to 1/3 hitting if you get down to your lowest efficiency. Strength 6, not going to matter because if you're in combat with the Predator you're doing something wrong. Toughness 7, so kind of what you expect for medium vehicles because anything tougher is quite good, being at toughness 8 is excellent, but Predator is not that tough. Wounds 11, which again is kind of average. I think the Rhino's got a little bit less, the Vindicator is about the same. Attacks do vary, highest efficiency 3, mid D3 and lowest 1. Again, you don't want to care about that because you shouldn't be in combat. And then leadership 8, which unless you've got psychic abilities attacking you in some way, not going to really matter. And then a 3+ save, which is kind of what you expect unless you are some kind of like monolithic vehicle such as a Land Raider or something. So Chaos Predator is armed with a Predator autocannon, which is an interesting weapon in itself. Heavy 2d3, strength 7, -1 AP and a solid 3 damage. Not a bad weapon, I'll go into that in a bit more detail. It can replace the Predator autocannon with twin lascannon, which essentially, if you should know by now, lascannons, hopefully, which twin one's going to give you 2 shots, strength 9, -3 AP and d6 damage, so certainly that's quite dangerous. It may take either 2 heavy bolters or 2 lascannons on its side sponsors, which gives it a bit more anti-infantry or a lot more, damage dealing, d6 damage dealing with lascannons. And it may take a Havoc launcher and or a combi weapon as well. Don't take combi plasma because I'm 90% sure if you supercharge combi plasma and get a 1 it slays the Predator outright. I'm 90% sure it's the case, so don't take the combi plasma and don't supercharge. But yeah, you do have that option, take a wee bit extra weaponry as well. It's armed with smoke launchers, which is once per game. Instead of shooting any weapon in the shooting phase, this model can use its smoke launchers until your next shooting phase. Your opponent must subtract 1 from all hit rolls for ranged weapons that target this vehicle. So this Predator is like predominantly made for shooting. Like that's its thing. So even movement and everything is kind of not what it really wants to do. It wants to sit back and just fire. So giving up all shooting for survivability may not be ideal. It also has explodes. If the model is reduced to 0 wounds, roll a d6 before removing the model from the battlefield. On a 6 it explodes, and each unit within 6 inches suffers d3 mortal wounds. Likely this thing's going to be in your back line, so obviously if it explodes it's probably going to hurt your other units around you, possibly other Predators. So explodes is what you kind of expect when it comes to vehicles, so it certainly does that as well. So that was a couple of the stats in the book, all things can see in the Codex, and also some weapon options. So we've really got to speak here about the sort of loadout suggestions I can make. So the first one is anti-tank duties. Chaos Predator with twin lascannon and 2 lascannons, that's on the sponsors. Simple but effective, this brings 4 lascannon shots in your army, and if fired at full efficiency with a lord alongside it, given some rerolls. It should punch a significant hole in anything it stares at. Against horde type armies, no, that's not going to do so well, but really their target should not be horde units when they're taking that many. It should be the biggest thing in the battlefield. You know, horde armies, you know, they still sometimes usually take something big along with them. Say if it's orcs, it might be a Morkanot in the backfield, Tyranids will be some big beastie, or even Dark Elder might bring a Talos Pain Engine. Last cannon them for days. That's kind of a really solid loadout for them there as well. Anti-infantry duties, Chaos Predator, Predator autocannon and 2 heavy bolters. So this is an interesting one to talk about, as I feel the Predator autocannon and the 2 heavy bolters really fill different roles for each other in terms of what infantry they want to go for. The Predator autocannon has a higher strength and a solid 3 damage. This sort of favours it to go against heavier infantry or heavier units with multiple wounds, such as Terminator, Centurions, Primaris, you know, just to target some of the loyalists. However, the Predator autocannon does have 2 sort of major weaknesses. First is its random amount of shots. On average, you're going to be putting out 3 shots because it's 2d3. Worst, it's going to be 2, and well, 3 or 4 is the average. Worst, it's going to be 2, and the best, it's going to be 4. It's going to be 6. However, I've never been a fan of a random amount of shots. It does not make it reliable. Secondly, the AP only being -1. This may be good against things like units armed with storm shields, where it works out to be the normal invul anyway, or good against wraiths because I'm pretty sure they're 3 wounds apiece and they just love invul saves themselves. So each one they fail will result in a dead wraith. I think they're 3 wounds, so not 4 wounds. So yeah, that would be great for them as well. But anything with like a 2+ save that has loads of wounds, say like I think Centurions, it will just bring them to a 3+ save, which means they ignore like 2/3 of the wounds anyway that actually successfully get through. Even Primaris or Space Marines, things with like 3 up saves, shrug off 50% of the wounds that actually connect. Which, if you go by averages, you're looking at, you know, about 3 to 4 hits, or amount of shots. About 2 will hit, maybe 3. Both should reliably, hopefully, wounds, maybe 1. And then your opponent, if they're well armoured, are going to get a 50% save. So for maybe 1 Primaris Marine when you're like targeting with the Predator autocannon, it's not really a very good trade for that one. Yeah, there's some things, you know, which might do better against, you know, things like Dark Elder vehicles, which have lower saves as it is. Yeah, you're more liable to cause damage there, but anything with a half decent save is really not going to fear this as much. The heavy bolters I almost prefer. They've got a solid 6 shots, a decent strength, you know, strength 5. They've got the same minus AP, -1, and they do only cause a lot less damage, only 1. Honestly, I sort of prefer the heavy bolters in my eyes compared to the Predator autocannon. You know, it just has a reliable amount of shots, which I think really does pay dividends. If, you know, for instance, you're targeting 1 wound units, then the heavy bolters I think will do just as good a job. I'm almost envious I think it's Blood Angels have the Bow Predator, and they can have twin assault cannons which put out a horrendous amount of great shots, just a high volume, and certainly makes them more likely with their sponsors as well to be much more better at throwing out herds of, say, like boys and Harmagonts and things, you know, just having a lot more shots and a lot more volume, as opposed to having 1 elite sort of killing gun and then 2 sort of horde killing guns in the side. That could be Blood Angels. I don't play Blood Angels, but I really do love. I think I've faced the assault cannon one. It's really, really good. So it makes me a wee bit envious on that side as well. You know, overall, a little bit more AP, even -2, would make like the Predator autocannon a lot more viable a choice. But I just feel when you are going to be targeting things that are a bit more elite, if they've got a 3+ save, meaning that they ignore 50% of the damage that comes through, is a bit difficult on that side for me to justify. So a big question on this one when we come to loadouts and everything, and I feel I should talk about this now. The big question, or I should maybe leave this to a summary on this one, but when we're talking about loadouts, we're going to talk about efficiency of it. Big question is, how do 4 last cannon shots from a Predator fare against 4 last cannon shots, say, from Havocs? Well, both have strengths and weaknesses, and to be brutally honest, I am favouring towards the Havocs. They sort of come out on top. You can benefit from Legion traits, which depends on your army composition, may not help. But you do benefit from sitting in cover, which makes it a lot more beneficial because obviously it means they go up a good bit of save. And you can benefit from the all-important Veterans of Long War, which for a lot of the weapons that can be armed with Havocs means you should be wounding on 2s, which can be really, really terrifying. There is a weakness to them as well. Each wound that does kill off a Havoc, you do lose a last cannon shot in its entirety, and if your opponent's got things like i.e. Castellan robots, which I do quite a lot, they are almost guaranteed to wipe out Havocs. The amount of Devastators I've destroyed with Castellan robots is frightening. The Predator on the other hand has got a good toughness. It's toughness 7, more wounds, and a stratagem that allows it to obviously move and shoot without taking -1 to hit due to heavy weapons, but I'll get into that a bit later. However, multi-wound weaponry will be their biggest weaponry weakness because all it takes a couple of last cans to bring down a Predator. So Predator versus Predator is one of those tricky lineups where whichever one first gets the most damage is going to win, and the deterioration of quality of the unit is going to be quite difficult. Equally on the anti-infantry front, I think the Havocs far outweigh the Predator. You can take 4 heavy bolters on Havocs where they're concentrated on what they want to do. They're cheap and they can benefit from Veterans of Long War, which is excellent. Even having 4 autocannons is more reliable because you know the amount of shots you're going to get compared to a Predator autocannon, which you're not sure the amount of shots you're going to get, but you do have 1 more damage with the Predator autocannon. Honestly, I sort of see benefits to both when it comes to them. They do sometimes fill a similar role, so I see a sort of benefit for both. However, the Havocs in my eyes seem to do a little bit better. Minus the obvious weakness of having a full unit of them. You need to actually buy the sort of aged Havocs models, or you could do what I've done with the ones I'm trying to get in production, which is get 30k models and get the Forge World sort of equipment. Get them on there, especially the underslung heavy bolter, looks awesome. Works quite well as well. So yeah, I wanted to speak a wee bit there, especially on loadouts. Havocs versus Predators. Both have strengths and weaknesses. Which one is better though? My opinion is Havocs. Very interested to hear your opinion as well. So yeah, let's speak about Legion traits. Now, for some reason, Marine armies, and I think Custodians as well, their vehicles do not benefit from Legion traits. So, you don't get any bonuses. I do like to speculate though and speak about Legion traits that would benefit them, if for any reason in the future we might get them, what Legion traits would be best. And there's 2 obvious ones that do help the Predator. Alpha Legion, hidden in plain sight. Your opponent must subtract 1 from hit rolls that target units with this trait if they're more than 12 inches away. Oh, how we wish we had this Legion trait on vehicles, and oh, how I wish it was on Predators. No doubt about it, a tough vehicle like Predator has a vehicle that has no interest being anywhere near your opponent's lines. This would be awesome, this would be great. You just hide in your backfield and your opponent tries to take it out. Cool, -1 tip. That would be great, but unfortunately not the case. And then we've got Iron Warriors, Siege Lords. Enemy units attacked by this unit with this trait do not gain the bonus to their saving throw for being in cover. In addition, you can reroll wound rolls for unit with this trait when they target a building. Another excellent choice for Predators, but not as much as you may think. If you're armed with last cannons, your likely targets will be ones that struggle to gain the benefit of cover either way, because probably target big beasties or vehicles which don't tend to do cover too well. So that would be not so much the case when it is for last cannons. The autocannon, the Predator autocannon and the heavy bolter version do benefit more because obviously they'll probably target more infantry, in which case they actually will probably benefit from cover, but your tanks will be like, ha, no. So yeah, really comes down to, you don't get these Legion rules, but it would be really nice if they could. Certainly I think Alpha Legion would be fantastic for Predators, fantastic for survivability. Who knows what the future will hold when it comes to them. Psychic abilities. Predators do benefit quite a wee bit from Dark Hereticus Discipline. Let's have a look what it does offer. So, Prescience, Warp Charge 7. If manifested, select a Hereticus Stars unit within 18 inches of a Psyker. You can add one to hit rolls made for the unit until the start of your next Psychic phase. Hitting on a 2+ is awesome, no doubt about it. Having a Chaos Lord nearby should guarantee all the last gun shots you have will connect, which should put a fair few holes in your target. Miasma Pestilence, Warp Charge 6. If manifested, select a visible Nurgle Heretic Stars unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. Till the start of your next Psych phase, your opponent must subtract 1 from hit rolls at target unit. -1 to hit is a real boost, certainly going to help the Predator survive more. Shame you can't have the Alpha Legion rule to be -2. You can become -2 by activating smoke launchers, but if you activate smoke launchers to keep the Predator alive, you are then not getting to shoot with it, which kind of makes your opponent go, yep, well, that's fine, don't then get to shoot with it, if you've activated them, that's your call. The -1 in general will make your opponent very infuriated, where they might then decide to target other units. And that might be quite good, and that means that the Predator can still fire at full efficiency because it's just too annoying to bring down when it is benefiting from Miasma of Pestilence. Delightful Agonies, Warp Charge 6, Mark of Slaanesh only. If manifested, select a visible Slaanesh Heretic Stars unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. Till the start of your next Psychic phase, roll a d6. Each time model in the unit loses a wound. On a 5+, it does not. So what's better, -1 to hit or ignoring 1/3 of the wounds that succeed? I lean towards the 1/3 of the wounds that get through, but all depends. If there's more ways to really get more minuses to hit, then I'd maybe lean towards that. But overall, a third of the wounds getting ignored when is going to be a massive boost. Even keeping yourself up efficiency is the key to make sure you get the most out of your Predator. Plus Slaanesh has all the choice in other areas as well, so that's a benefit on that side as well. Stratagem recommendation. First way, we're going to go with Blasphemous Machines. Cost 1 command point. Use this stratagem just before a Heretic Stars vehicle attacks in the shooting phase. Until the end of the phase, the vehicle can ignore the penalties for moving and firing heavy weapons, or for advancing and firing assault weapons. The Predator may make it pretty efficient to use the stratagem. It's able to use 12-inch movement at peak efficiency, so it means it can get some space from your opponent in case they drop in and get you in a vulnerable position. And then not having the -1 to hit, so if you're at peak efficiency you wouldn't be hitting on 4s. It's kind of ideal. But when you've got Last Cannon and you're only rolling 4 dice anyway, it only really benefits if you roll a 3. So you might just want to save that dice anyway for one of the, if you do roll 1-3, then just re-roll it. You can with the command point, so you could choose to re-roll that. On the autocannon and the heavy bolter version, this will be a lot better because you put out a lot more shots, which means you should actually see more of a benefit. Next up we come with the Predator sort of specialist stratagem, this being Kill Shot. Cost 1 command point. Use the stratagem in the shooting phase if a Legion Chaos Predator is within 6 inches of 2 other Legion Chaos Predators. If you do so, you can add 1 to wound and damage rolls for the Predator's attacks that target monsters or vehicles this phase. So I had a look at this one, and a couple of people have asked is it just one Predator or all the Predators? And that actually seems to indicate that the apostrophe placement indicates all 3, which is very powerful. Secondly, there was an FQ which essentially changed it from damage rolls to damage. This means that heavy bolters and Predator autocannons do become 2 damage and 4 damage respectively, which is quite nice. 4 damage a shot, that becomes quite scary, and +1 to your wound rolls as well. That is scary with 3 Predators and that. All this for 1 command point does sound amazing, no doubt, and if you get the first turn, those 3 Predators are going to cause an unholy amount of hell. Spearhead detachment with Chaos Lord and 3 Predators is going to be very scary. However, if your opponent sees you setting up this way, you can bet all their efforts will be to bring down at least one of those Predators and shut down this this stratagem. There is no way you can let like one live. If one lives, then you activate that. It's going to hurt. Even if you don't get first turn, I would be tempted to activate the stratagem that gives your whole army cover, because then that'll mean your Predators are going to be to a 2+ save, making it even more difficult to bring them down, and certainly infuriate your opponent further. And one single turn of this can be truly devastating. I know I brought knights and things in a game where there was like 3 Predators, and I suffered, and they're long ways from each other. I suffered 3 rounds of this stratagem, and it just poked holes in my entire army. I mean, it was truly devastating. If your opponent cannot deal with at least one of these Predators, this is just going to tear the biggest vehicles absolutely apart. The other big weakness though is that depending on the equipment that you do go for, it's nearly 600 points or so for the Predators, and a further 100 if you want to take like a Chaos Lord or something. So, you know, if your opponent sees this, you know, they're going to try and kill it. If your opponent doesn't deal with it, well, these things are going to kill some stuff, which is kind of ideal. So certainly if you do take 3, make sure you get first turn, point towards something big, and kill it. So that's sort of my assessment on the Chaos Predator. It really does come down to them or Havocs. They fill a very similar role. These days I'm leaning towards Havocs, and I've certainly got quite a few of them. I've also got a few Predators coming into production as well. But, oh boy, it's a tricky one. The Predators do fill a massive role in themselves. So it really depends on sort of your meta, what sort of armies you are playing against. But certainly I would love to know your views when it comes to Havocs versus Predators. Thanks again for watching. Please comment, share, like and subscribe. Check us out on social media and Patreon, where you can see projects that we're working on and also help the channel grow. Every bit of support we get does help us bring more content, which we absolutely love to do, and we'd love to do more, and with your help we can absolutely get there. So yeah, thanks again, and we'll see you in another Tabletop Assault Battle Report.